Well, thanks so much for tuning into the Market Wrap. I am Niraj Shah with Nickey Mirchandani, and it was a good day for the markets, you would have to say. At the start of the trading day in the trade setup, we had spoken about the possibilities that arguably because of the US stimulus and the fact that the US futures were looking a bit better, there was a chance that we'll do well. Yes, I don't think too many people anticipated the kind of well that we did, but I don't think people are complaining because of the moves that we made. So pull up the Nifty 50 for our viewers and just show you the way the stocks moved around in the session today and the nature of the stocks that moved around in the session today. So as you can see, there was strength in Power Grid Corporation of India, for example. So PSUs did well, right? You had ONGC, Power Grid, to an extent at the broader end of the spectrum, some other PSUs which did reasonably okay for themselves. So that whole bucket was doing well for itself. There was strength today in Shree Cement and Ultratech. I think cement dealers spoke, or by some broker, it spoke about some price hikes as well. And auto names duly reacted to the kind of numbers that some of them came out with. What didn't do well? And well, one stock, right? One stock on the Nifty 50, and that's Bharti Airtel. And what a disappointment it is for people who would have bought into it thinking that once the MSCI rebalancing is underway and the money starts coming in, the stock will move up. There was a consensus view near 600 that Airtel is the stock to buy on the Nifty. And look at what's happened to the stock from near 600, 610 all the way to 530 or thereabouts. It's been a big laggard, really. So Jio is calling the shots, and Airtel and V are indeed suffering. But in a day that is filled with green, it's difficult to probably choose one key name that stood out. Nikki Johnson to talk about precisely that one key large cap name that stood out. And Nikki, it would have been a difficult task considering the fact that there were a bunch of them that did really well.
Yeah, I mean, let's actually focus on the stock which did not perform well, which is Bharti Airtel, because sharp cuts, as you just mentioned, coming in for Bharti Airtel after what Jio did. Again, a price disruption, again, a move which distorts the whole pricing power. It was inching towards that 600 rupees kind of a mark. There were consensus building in that, anytime soon there would be a tariff hike which would be coming in. But there Jio goes, takes a new plan has been unveiled. And at the same time, the smartphone, the consensus, most of the brokers are also citing the reason as, it's not going to be anytime soon that Jio might want to take a cut because it's kind of garnering some kind of traction before, it launches that smartphone, and it might want to just keep the tariff rates on a tight leash, because of which, the entire industry probably will just be, a little hand tight with, raising the tariff hike for that matter. But yeah, clearly the brunt of which was borne by Bharti Airtel today, and we saw sharp cuts coming in. And the other counter that I've picked up is cement. We've done a piece a couple of days back where we spoke about how the Q4 actually looks better than the Q3. We're given the kind of outlook, given the kind of cost scenario also that's expected to play out, although a bit of tailwind here, it seems to be receding when it comes to the petcoke and coal prices. But nevertheless, if you look at the demand, both rural as well as in infra, in urban, especially coming in from the construction pockets, that seems to be pretty significant, right? And a couple of brokerages today also cited that South Indian players, typically India Cement or something in the likes of, you have JK Lakshmi Cement, which also has some amount of presence coming in South. These are the, counters which are actually doing well in trade, because there have been reports that this is the region which has taken a price hike. Now, do remember the fact that couple of, for the past consecutive months, it was South which was not showing any signs of improvement whatsoever. So little green shoots coming there probably, augurs well for the entire sector as a whole. And of course, the pan-India players, so to say, be it in the likes of Ultratech Cement, and now also to an extent Shree Cement, which is also, just expanding upon its geography. But then what are you picking up in the whole broadcast space?
One of the interesting things that happened in the mid-cap space today is this: if you see the newer entrants in the derivative space, viewers would remember 16 stocks got added in the derivative space, and some of them are doing really well. So if you get that MOE chart of the Bloomberg terminal on the screen, one, you will see that the advance decline ratio was pretty robust, 366 advancing to 134 declining. But just look at some of the gainers there. So Deepak Nitrite at 1563 up 14%, a new entrant in the FNO space. There was Gujarat Gas, which was up about 9%. up 9% or thereabouts. New entrant in the FNO space. A lot of state PSU names too are doing really well. Gujarat Narmada Valley, Gujarat State Fertilizers, Gujarat Alkalis doing well. So three or four of those names did really well for themselves. I mean, we're missing a Gujarat Gas here. That stock was up about 9% too. So that set of stock, those set of stocks did really well for themselves. What didn't do well? Well, there's some losses, of course, as we said, to Vodafone Idea as well. So we was correcting a little bit. Solar Active was down about 5%. There was weakness, and I think Tube Investments, IIFL Wealth, and a few others. But you would have to admit that largely the day belonged to the gainers. The pluses were far outweighed the minuses. The market breadth was positive, and this is something that the bulls would have been hoping. Dr. Sikinaran wrote in his piece as well over the weekend that mid caps are calling. I hope people heard them and read that article actually. What about individual names, Nikki? What stood out and the reasons thereof?
Yeah, Apple India, that stock has performed particularly very well in today's day of trade. The company has approved, rather the board has approved raising of funds for issue of securities, including warrants or bonds or any other combination as the need may be. That could be through QIP or any other permissible mode, and this would be to an extent of 1,080 odd crore. A general, extraordinary general meeting would be held on a March 24th to deliberate upon the exact amount and the kind of method that the company would be taking. What also did extremely well in trade today was shares of Apollo Trichord Tubes, that probably a record high level that we're looking at for this counter. And the company, along with Sri Lakshmi Metal Udyog, has merged with APL Apollo Tube. So that's one big development which is coming in on that counter. The swap ratio is pretty much seems to be in the favor, and the appointed date for the merger has been set as April 1st, 2021. So that was a big moving point coming in for at least this one. But any other sector, or for that matter, any other theme that you're looking at this point of time, apart from the mid cap space, that seems to be luring some traction?
Yeah, well, it'll be interesting to see what happens to the oil sensitives considering the OPEC meet is slated for the 4th. So I think that's one big thing that people would be watching out for. But what about the global markets? Are they supportive, Nikki?
Yeah, at this point of time, yeah, clearly, you would see European market trading and green, some amount of support coming in there. The manufacturing data out there pretty much has, boosted the sentiment. There is this a semblance of a calm in global bond markets and more positive news coming in for COVID-19 vaccine, which typically has been hungering well for the entire globe setup. But this is all that we have for you. Thank you so much for tuning in.